The first thing she said was not loud, not dramatic, not meant to wound, but it cut deeper than any shout ever could. "Don't. You tore my dress." The words fell between them like something fragile, breaking on hard ground. The rancher froze, his hand still halfway raised, dust floating in the late afternoon, sun as if time itself had paused to witness his mistake. The wind carried the smell of dry hay and old wood, the ranch breathing the same way it had for generations, indifferent to the sudden shift in two human lives colliding under its open sky. He had acted without thinking, driven by anger sharpened by exhaustion and pride, believing for just a moment that authority meant control. The woman before him, Eliza, was not crying, not screaming. She was standing straight, gripping the torn fabric at her side, her eyes steady but wounded in a way that unsettled him more than rage ever could. She had come to the ranch looking for work, carrying nothing but a small bag and quiet hope. And in one careless instant, he had stripped that hope of its safety. The dress was not just cloth, it was her dignity, her effort to arrive with self-respect intact. Silence followed, thick and uncomfortable. He muttered something, an excuse, a justification, but even to his own ears it sounded hollow. He had lost his temper over a misunderstanding, accused her of something she did not do, and when she tried to step away, his grip had caught the seam. The sound of fabric tearing replayed in his mind again and again, louder than thunder. Around them, the ranch hands pretended not to notice, but everyone felt it. Eliza's voice finally broke the silence, calm but resolute. She said she would leave before sunset. That was when regret first appeared, not as guilt, but as fear. Fear of being seen for who he truly was in that moment. As she walked toward the barn to collect her things, he followed at a distance, wrestling with himself. Memories rose uninvited, his late wife's voice reminding him that power without restraint was cruelty. His father's harsh lessons that had shaped him into a man who mistook hardness for strength. He wanted to stop her, to apologize, but pride stood in his throat like a stone. When she reached the door, she turned back once, not to plead, not to accuse, but to say something that would haunt him long after she left. Trusted this place would be different. Then she was gone into the shadows of the barn, leaving him alone in the open light, exposed to the weight of what he had done. That evening, the ranch felt unfamiliar. Every creak of wood sounded like accusation. He replayed the moment endlessly, realizing too late that anger had made him smaller, not stronger. By nightfall, the torn image of that dress had become a symbol of his failure, not just as a rancher, but as a man. And as the stars came out, he understood something terrifying. Regret does not ask permission before it settles in, and it does not leave quietly. If this story touched you so far, remember to subscribe to the channel, because stories like this are not just told to entertain, but to remind us how one moment can change everything. Morning arrived without mercy. The sun rose as it always did, painting the land gold, but the rancher felt none of its warmth. Eliza had not slept in the bunkhouse. Her space was empty, her bag gone. The realization struck harder than any confrontation could have. She had left in the night, choosing uncertainty over staying where she felt diminished. He walked the property restlessly, seeing the ranch through different eyes for the first time, not as something he owned, but as something he was responsible for. Responsibility, he learned too late, was not just about land and labor, but about how people were treated within its boundaries. By mid-morning, he saddled his horse and followed the dirt road toward town, driven by something deeper than apology, driven by the need to face the consequences of his actions honestly. He found her near the edge of town, standing outside a small shop, the torn dress replaced by a borrowed shawl, her posture still proud despite everything. When he approached, she did not step back. She did not soften either. He removed his hat, a gesture that cost him more than words, and spoke slowly, carefully, without excuses. He admitted fault. He named his behavior for what it was, wrong. He did not ask her to return. He did not ask for forgiveness. He simply said he was sorry, and that he would carry the shame of that moment whether she forgave him or not. Eliza listened, eyes searching his face, not for charm or persuasion, but for truth. She told him that apologies do not erase fear, and regret does not automatically restore trust. But she also said something that surprised him. Regret, when genuine, could still change a man. She walked away again, but this time without bitterness, only distance. Weeks passed. The rancher changed quietly. He corrected his temper, listened more than he spoke, set rules for himself that no one else could see. He paid for Eliza's torn dress anonymously through the shopkeeper, not as repayment but as acknowledgement. Word spread, not of the incident but of his transformation. Months later, a letter arrived. Eliza had found work elsewhere, found her footing, found herself again. She wrote not to absolve him, but to tell him that his apology mattered, because it did not demand anything in return. He read the letter under the same sky where it had all begun, understanding now that regret, when faced honestly, could become the beginning of accountability. The ranch remained, but he was no longer the same man who ruled it with anger. He had learned the hardest lesson of all. Respect cannot be taken, only given, and once broken, it must be rebuilt slowly if at all. Stories like this remind us that actions have weight, and regret is only meaningful when it leads to change. If you believe stories should leave you thinking long after they end, subscribe to the channel, because the next story may challenge you even more.